Books and story time. I have some little thoughts for you today, and one was written by a king in ancient times, a Jewish king, and he states, "It was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees." And this was a saying by King David. Now, I'm going to talk today about the pearl of great price, because I came across pearls when I was abroad. So this is a travel log from Hong Kong. Stanley, a suburb of the city-state of Hong Kong, is famous for its market and a must for shopping. We set off in the cool of the early morning, catching the MTR and the KCR trains into the centre of Hong Kong, where we boarded a bus that would take us out to Stanley. I set off with my sister and two of my nieces for a day of shopping. My niece Rebecca was hoping to find a dress for her school prom, and the bus chugged along. The winding roads that led around the rocky coastline offered us wonderful views of the sea and the islands, and stopping here and there, we picked up other passengers. Finally, we arrived at our destination and set about the serious business of shopping. The market was an Aladdin's cave of wonderful things. Soft and warm pashmina shawls, lovely hand-embroidered cushions, beautiful traditional Chinese dresses, mobiles, fans, kites, the Chinese love kites, chopsticks, ball dresses. Rebecca tried on a lovely ball gown, all in red, but looked at the price tag and nearly fainted. There were toys and furniture, shoes and jewellery. One stall caught my eye early on in our wanderings, and my sister and I spent a lot of time gazing at the sheer beauty of the pearls. Some were deep blue, some pale pink, others cream, and others pure white. Some were strung, and others were waiting to be strung. Their lustre and beauty glowed. How I longed to own a string of them. I wondered if the pearls were synthetic, man-made, but the man assured me that they were cultured pearls, grown inside an oyster. There was nothing synthetic about them. In the wild, an oyster can accidentally get a grain of sand inside its shell. The oyster cannot get rid of this grain of sand. It irritates the creature inside so much that it builds a layer of mineral material around it, then another and another, until the irritation is built into a large and lustrous pearl. Man cannot reproduce the pearl, but the Japanese found that they could harvest more pearls, so they caught the oysters from off the seabed, and they forcibly inserted a small particle of sand or other object into the oyster's body, and then they returned the oysters to the sea. Later on, they caught the oyster again and retrieved the beautiful pearl. However, the pearl has to be cut out of the oyster's body, and in the process, the oyster loses its life. As I thought about this process, which is going on in various places around the world, I thought about the oysters and the pearls that were produced as a result of irritation, and I realised that our lives are like the oyster. We get irritations and trials in our life. We can let these illustrations continue to bother us, or we can do something about it. If we cannot get rid of these problems, we can control them. Some people allow problems to control and rule their lives. Wanting people to feel sorry for them, they wallow in self-pity and misery. Other people use the bad things that happen to them and use these irritations to their advantage. The Apostle Paul, a great explorer, hints at the possible problem with his eyesight, which he calls his thorn in the flesh. But he was a great missionary and a prolific letter writer, some of which have been included in the Christian's holy book, the Bible. John Bunyan was blind and at one time was thrown into prison. But instead of crying, "Woe is me," he wrote the amazing book, Pilgrim's Progress. Then there's Dr. Mary of Vellore, of the Vellore Hospital in India, who, in spite of being confined to a wheelchair, she operates on the hands of lepers, giving them some form of life back. Many others could be named. Helen Keller, who overcame blindness and deafness, but by her sheer determination has overcome her difficulties and led many others to understand how they can overcome difficulties. George VI of England, who struggled for years with a speech impediment, overcame his impediment and reluctance to be part of public life. He became king on the abdication of his brother and rallied his people during the terrible years of the Second World War. All these people and many more have taken the irritation that has been forced upon their bodies and overcome it. Out of their affliction they have produced pearls. King David states, "It was good for me to be afflicted, so that I might learn your decrees." The oyster develops the pearl by covering the thing that irritates them up. If you have something in your life that irritates you and you can't get rid of it, why don't you try making it into a pearl? Lord, take the things that irritate me and enable me to turn them into a beautiful pearl for you.